I've known this gentleman for so long and have been on his show. We've been on conjoined shows, and now he's on my show here, 6:30 a.m. Fox Sports Radio. Welcome, Bo. How are you? Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, man. Always great to hang out with you.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much. Well, you're in it for an hour, so you're in it to win it. Speaking of in it to win it, we have the Seattle Seahawks who are taking on the New England Patriots. As we know, the Seattle Seahawks have wasted no time getting here throughout the regular season. There was some tumultuous times where we've seen Sam Darnold throw some unnecessary interceptions, but then again, when are they necessary? I don't know. But I will say this. During postseason play, Sam Darnold has done absolutely everything you want him to do. Everything you would want from a quarterback to do, he has done. What has been most impressive for Sam Darnold from your standpoint, Bo, the regular season and in postseason play?
Yeah, I mean, you're really looking at ball security here. When you think back to the other two times they played the Rams, right? He throws for 4 interceptions the first time in a loss that they were still right in that game. I mean, they were a missed field goal away from winning it. The second time they win that game, albeit in a weird way, but he still threw a couple of interceptions in that game. So for him, in the third end of that trilogy against the Rams, he was almost perfect. Throws for 3 touchdowns, 350 yards, and no interceptions. So you could actually watch him during that game making those kind of smart decisions. You could see him wanting to wind up and throw a bad pass and then take it back down and either throw it away or take the sack. So watching him evolve throughout the season and really kind of settle in, that's probably one of the more encouraging things that you would be looking for going into tomorrow.
Well, good thing about Sam Darnold, he's been on 4 teams. And when he was drafted in 2018 by the New York Jets, they are probably shooting themselves in the foot right now because, as with any other quarterback in the New York Jets system, he's a guy who has found a way to not only try to win them games, but because the New York media likes to crucify the local talent, which would be the quarterback, saying it's their fault, it's their issue. He's seen ghosts. There was just so much mysticism surrounding his play and his play style. Yeah. And I remember interviewing Sam Darnold when he was drafted in 2018 ahead of Josh Rosen, obviously, which, Josh Rosen no longer on an NFL roster anywhere in the Western Hemisphere. Now, to Sam Darnold's credit, and it's no slam on Josh Rosen, but, when you look at this guy, he thought he was better. He believed he was better. He complained like he was better. And he wasn't that kind of guy. He didn't have the gun that Sam Darnold had heading out of USC into the pros. Now, when I interviewed Sam Darnold, and I interviewed him times leading up to that in the media days, and when he had his head coach, and everything was good for him. Of course, fight on, Sam, if you're listening. Congratulations, by the way. But you have 1 game left to go, so hopefully you make the best of it. One thing about Sam Darnold that I really enjoy is his demeanor, his under pressure attitude, the way that he is non-movable, in other words, immovable. It's almost like an object in your rearview mirror that's actually sitting in your back seat, because he has had some of the best quarterback whispering head coaches in the National Football League. And when he went to, I think, San Francisco, Bo, you can agree with me or not on this one. I think the Shanahan tree spread out with Mike Shanahan's son as the head coach for the 49ers, still currently head coach, who had taught Sam Darnold so much while he was there, being the vintage guy. And when you look at the 49ers and where they're at right now, I bet they're also shooting themselves in the foot, even though they had Mac Jones as their backup, Brock Purdy injured during the regular season. Mm-hmm. Is Sam Darnold the unflappable guy that will end up making the right type of reads without necessarily being the guy in the back getting sacked by this New England Patriots defense?
Yeah, I mean, Sam Darnold is a smart quarterback, right? Like, no, I don't think anybody's going to say he's one of the top 5 elite guys, but he's really smart with the football. He can make all the throws. One of the things you got to keep in mind when he was drafted by the Jets, and of course when he went to Carolina, is he didn't have a lot of weapons around him, and he had horrendously bad offensive lines. You go to the 49ers, that is a really complete team. You go to Minnesota, again, it was a really complete team. Now, he had a couple of bad games at the end of the season, but you also got to keep in mind that offensive line got hurt, with 4 weeks to go in the year. So, I mean, when he's protected, he can beat anybody. When he's under duress, that's where you see some of those bad decisions, which is why it was encouraging in that NFC Championship game that he did get some pressure in that, but he was much smarter with the football.
Yeah, his intelligence, obviously, is not off the charts. It's not screaming, oh, he's got the best football IQ in football. Exactly. No, but what he knows how to do is be more decisive, be more accurate despite the pressure in his face, and he's willing to take a sack over an interception. Now, that tells me a lot about his character. It tells me a lot about what he did at USC, and now that he's in the Super Bowl, who, by the way, for those that don't know, Sam Darnold is a guy who's been through the journeyman aspect in the National Football League, drafted by a team that was not ready for him, despite him being ready for the NFL. Yeah. Throughout his tutelage, Sam Darnold still, and the only quarterback out of that draft class that ends up starting and playing in the Super Bowl ahead of Lamar Jackson, who was drafted 32nd overall by the Baltimore Ravens. Leighton Vander Esch, who was drafted by the Dallas Cowboys as an inside linebacker. But quarterback specifically, the only quarterback in that draft class now appearing in the Super Bowl. That says a lot about him, Bo. And he is near an unflappable kind of guy under pressure, under duress, even during post-game conferences where they did not perform the way that they wanted. He took it on the chin. He took ownership for it. And that's one of those things that makes Sam Darnold who Sam Darnold is. Now, let's talk about this. When Sam Darnold is on his A game, he can slice you and dice you. But when you look at the opposite side of that spectrum with the defense, because defense, they say, wins championships. In this instance for Seattle, that could be the case. You have a lot of good names on that defense, and guys are coming back. One guy specifically is coming back from injury. We'll talk about that in a minute. But what I wanted to touch on is the special teams for Seattle Seahawks is very special. What have you seen from special teams that makes you believe that they could be the difference maker in this game outside of defense and offense for Seattle?
Yeah, I mean, Rashid Shaheed has been so dynamic for Seattle. He's shown up a little bit in the offense, but his special teams play has been second to none. You also go into this game having to realize that Seattle was the only special teams unit in the league that had a positive plus minus. They were a +2. So just the special teams showing up based on that metric is giving you 2 points, right? So you expect the special teams of Seattle to come out huge. They've shown it all year, and they've shown it against every kind of team, right? Bad teams, good teams, doesn't matter. This special teams unit is exactly that. It is special.
Absolutely is, no doubt about it. Look, throw us a follow on Instagram at diamondsreno.com, and you can find us on X at Diamonds Casino. We have a new but not so new sponsor here on Let's Talk Sports. It's William Hill. Of course, everybody should know William Hill if you're a betting guy, and they've been here for quite some time, but now the Super Bowl is here. Get your bet on. Come down, take advantage of the opportunity to bet on your favorite team. You can select parlays. You can do whatever you want from a betting standpoint here at the William Hill kiosks, which are here right on the casino floor. So you can pick your own Super Bowl team, and obviously the winner of Super Bowl 60. And of course, we think about 10 years prior to this in Super Bowl 50. And the last time, and of course, this team was not in the next Super Bowl 50, but the Denver Broncos were, who are clearly not going to be here because of not having Bo Nix and the decision-making process in football, a situation of football moves and things of that nature. But the last time New England had faced off against Seattle, it did not work out so well for Seattle. Why? And I watched this game, and you could probably attest to this as well, Bo. They deviated from game plan. And right now, the game plan for Seattle, at least based on how I look at it, Seattle is looking to mix and match with Njigba being the number one wide receiver. Obviously, the guy's as tough as nails. They're going to utilize part of the running game with Charbonnet, who I believe is slated to start in this game. You have Walker, who's been an absolute lights out back, and a two back
So
set you probably can't get any better.
so Charbonnet is out. He
Oh,
tore
he's
his
listed as out.
ACL. He tore his ACL a few weeks ago.
Okay, so no Charbonnet then. I
No
thought Charbonnet was on the list to return, but clearly now it's on Walker's shoulders. So
Yeah.
now Walker's going to be that guy who's going to take it on, and he did it well against the LA Rams, who just basically, I don't know, somehow they just let up on the pressures. They didn't get the pressures they wanted to, and it's a shame. I guess you will not have Charbonnet.
Yeah, I mean Walker didn't exactly have like a huge game against the Rams. He had meaningful yards, but he didn't have a lot of yards. So he only rushed for about 60 yards. But they were meaningful. They made the defense respect the run. And I actually expect a very similar game out of Walker this time around, with the strength of the Patriots defense really being in run protection. I would expect him to still be in that 60-yard mark, but that is still enough that they have to respect the run. And so that will open some other stuff up. I also really don't expect JSN to have a huge game. I expect Gonzo and a free safety to kind of bracket him. I would bet that this defense is going to dare Kupp, Shaheed, and Jake Bobo to beat them. You're going to try and take the, offensive player of the year out of the game as much as you can.
Well, you can, but one thing about Njigba is that he respects coverage packages, and he knows. So as long as his eyes are on Sam Darnold, excuse me, as long as his eyes are on Sam Darnold, he'll know exactly when to catch the ball, if he needs to do a curl route and come back to the ball. I think Njigba will have those sneaky yards after catch, maybe not a ton of them, but I think enough to make a difference to get this Patriots defense to think a little bit differently, to make some corrections heading into halftime. Now, historically, Bo, as you know, Seattle is 11-9 against New England, and I look at this game and I think to myself, man, Seattle, 23-20 in the last contest, Seattle 35-30, 24-31. Seattle, 31-24 Seattle, 28-24 against Seattle, but that was the only win, and Seattle squeaking that out 24-23. And I look at this game, I think to myself, man, if there's an offensive leader for this team, clearly it's going to be from Sam Darnold to Njigba, who had 1,793 yards during the regular season. And that is not to shake his stick at, because the only two guys that come close to that is Puka Nacua and George Pickens. And that actually speaks a lot about his ability to not only catch the ball, but to gravitate towards where the ball is, as he did during the regular season. We got to take a quick commercial break here. We'll be back. We got to pay the bills, and we'll be back in about, 3 minutes. So we shall return.
Nice.
Cool. So we're clear for 2 minutes.
I
didn't see Charbonnet on that list.
Yeah, Charbonnet tore his ACL. I think it was either week 16 or 17. So yeah, he's out until probably mid next season.
Oh, okay. Damn, that's a shame.
Yeah, it is. I mean, Helani has actually maximized his touches, but it's always funny when there's commercial breaks, because it reminds me of my playing days. Because when you play arena ball, you can't really leave the field, right?
Yeah.
So you have like a 2 to 4 minute break, and so you're like chatting with the crowd and like some of the other team and the refs and whatever, because you can't leave, so there's nothing you can do. So you just have this like 3-4 minute section where you're just standing around in the middle of the field.
Yeah, you're like, okay, tick tock.
Yep.
Waiting for things to transpire. I guess people are tuning in. We're getting a lot of different types of comments. My buddy Nick Ferguson, former Denver Bronco, reposted to his audience, which is always nice.
Very cool.
Who else? Scott Cobe.
Yep. That's one of my guys there. Same with the voice of one. Yep.
Yeah, same here. Always tagging me in everything MBS.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say no. You know, tag me and I'll like it. You know,
Yeah,
I'm
right.
not always going to share it, but I'm going to like it. Well, we're on a commercial break, everybody. This is Bo Crouch and myself, Rudy Reyes here. Let's Talk Sports here in Diamonds Casino on the Diamond Stage, as it were. As you can see the sign behind me, Let's Talk Sports appears every Saturday from 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on through 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We have 2 minutes here left. Bo, while we're not live, we're live on a live stream, obviously.
Yep.
But when you look at New England, we'll talk about this coming back from the break. When you look at New England and you think to yourself, how could they get in the backfield? And I know pressure has been Sam Darnold's Achilles heel at times, but they're going to have to mix up their blitz packages and maybe even a safety blitz now that you have E-back in the fold. Is this going to be an early and often type of pressure from New England to force Sam into errant throws?
You know, that's going to depend on what the scoring looks like. If Seattle jumps out on top right away, it limits their ability to come after him, right? If New England jumps out on top, that's where you start seeing, you know, a free linebacker starting to pressure a lot, because if they get to play with a lead, they're going to try and protect Drake May from making the mistakes that he has during postseason play here. So that defense will probably get altered based on the way the scoring starts.
Right, absolutely. And we have 1 minute to come back on 6:30 a.m. Fox Sports Radio here in Reno, Nevada. Of course, again, this show starts at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time right here from the Diamond Stage with yours truly sitting behind the camera. Of course, always welcoming different guests, different opinions, attitudes, mindsets. And just because you're not with these teams doesn't mean that your team is not ready to go. Soon we're going to be able to take calls as well live on the air. So stay tuned for that one. That's going to be fun. And we have 30 seconds to get back in this.
Oh.
We're going to get into some nuts and bolts of this. Some people may enjoy it, and some people may not enjoy the nuts and bolts. But this is still information that's going to be good that people will want to know about, talk about, discuss amongst yourselves and your peers. And this is going to be great. Welcome back to Let's Talk Sports here at Diamonds Casino on 6th and Sutro in the lovely city of Reno, Nevada, near downtown. Make sure if you do show up, go to the Blue Collar Diner, get yourself one of the best cheeseburgers here locally in the Reno area. Also, go over to the Roper Bar, grab yourself a Jack and Coke for $1, and stay glued to the games. We had a lot going on here. We have a Super Bowl watch party tomorrow live here at Diamonds Casino. Go to Trade Winds down at the opposite end and get your margarita on. And thank you so much for tuning in. Welcome back, Bo Crouch here, who's been on the show. Actually, this is the first time here on this show, but me and him have known each other for quite a long time, and always welcoming Bo. And again, welcome back, Bo, to the other part of the show.
Yeah, no, of course, man. I always love hanging out with you. So plus, you know, it got Seattle in the game here this time. So that's always kind of fun.
Well, yeah, when your team is in it, now there's something to talk about. Now it's something to dissect, you know, and look forward to. When the Steelers faced off Super Bowl 20 years ago, it was Seattle against Pittsburgh. And of course, Seattle said the calls didn't go their way. Perhaps they did it. Perhaps they did. But Steelers end up winning their fourth Lombardi, as you know. So always their fifth Lombardi, excuse me. So
it is funny because people complain about the refs in that game, right? And don't get me wrong, the calls in that game were atrocious, no question. But that's not why they lost, right? I mean, you had Jeremy Stevens drop 5 third down balls that would have been first downs. There's not a lot of games that you drop 5 first downs and still go win. Right. So were there bad calls? 100%. But if you're leaving the game up to refs, you didn't do enough anyway.
That's exactly right. And that's one of those things where the look on Jeremy Stevens' face was, oh my gosh, I dropped the ball. I cannot believe this. During the regular season, he had multiple catches in game-winning situations, but yet found a way to let his nerves get to him and in turn dropped the ball multiple times. So, you know, any given Sunday, any given Super Bowl Sunday, on top of that, I'm Rudy Reyes here on Let's Talk Sports with Bo Crouch. You know, let's get the nuts and bolts of this, right? So New England faced off against Seattle in 2015 in a very memorable matchup where Seattle was run. Let's continue running the ball.
Sure.
Unfortunately, with second to go at the New England's 1 yard line, late in the fourth quarter, Russell Wilson intercepted by Malcolm Butler, who's now on NBC, a retired NFLer, and one of the most shocking Super Bowl memories. Why? Because I just mentioned it. They were running the ball all game long with Marshawn Lynch, and they mixed it up in the backfield. And then you throw a pass. You throw a pass to win the game. You can't go away and you can't deviate from what you do during the regular season. You can't deviate from what helped you get to a Super Bowl, regardless of what team you're on. The minute you do that, you're deviating from your team's success and ability to win. So that was a blown call, in my opinion.
There is a second school of thought here. So the problem is it was second down, right? You have just over 30 seconds, and you only have one timeout. So if you're going to use all three downs, one of them had to be a pass play, because you're not going into a pass play thinking you're going to throw an interception, right? You're thinking worst case scenario, incomplete pass, clock stops. Then you run the ball. It doesn't get in. You have a timeout. So you can use the rest of the plays, right? But if you actually go back and watch that play, obviously Malcolm Butler makes an incredible play, no question. But Jermaine Kearse was supposed to run a rub route that should have put Malcolm Butler off of his path. He doesn't get that rub route at all, right? Because it's supposed to be kind of a pseudo pick play, and Ricardo Lockett is supposed to be free to catch that ball.
Correct.
Now, Malcolm Butler makes a great play. Kearse doesn't do the route that he was supposed to do. And, obviously Ricardo Lockett does not come up with that one. But I didn't mind the play call so much because you did only have the one timeout. And so one of those needed to be a pass play. I get everybody saying in the rear view mirror saying you had to run the ball there, but one of them had to be a pass play because you didn't have enough time to do three running plays.
Well, no, true, absolutely. But here's the thing. If you have a timeout and you want to mix and match and keep the defense honest, you create a different play call on a curl route, a short curl. You go to the right-hand side. There's your curl route. There's your first down. And now you got to keep the defense honest by doing something they didn't expect. And that rub route would have been an absolutely perfect play. But because you didn't have time on the clock to do it, you could have stayed on that side at the end because that safety was basically burned by that, let's say. Presupposedly can't go back and change Super Bowl history, but you could have easily gotten yourself into a better position on the field, even at the 1 yard line. Woulda, shoulda, coulda.
Yeah.
Had there been a touchdown on the right-hand side of that, instead of moving to the left, you go to the right, pull a pump fake, and there you go. Would have changed Super Bowl history forever, and Seattle would not be facing the New England Patriots with a second Lombardi on the line, and in turn would have kept New England at 5 Lombardis instead of 6, as you know.
You could play devil's advocate there though, because if it goes to the outside and Malcolm Butler makes the same kind of break, that could be a pick 6. Could be a whole different conversation. So, I mean, true. You never really know. Any number of things could have happened differently. Sadly, I think Seattle is so obsessed with the number 12 that we had to go 1 and 2 in Super Bowls, but we can put that behind us now and get our second ring.
That's exactly right. And that's why they're at right now. Look, Seattle has not reached the Super Bowl since the 2016-2018 season, where Seattle won 3 of those regular season games. So, look, this is a different Seattle team. This is a different time for Seattle. And obviously, you look at the other side of the ball in New England, they are Tom Brady-less. He's now retired from the league, I believe 2 or 3 years removed. And he stated, I guess, somewhere that he's not voting for New England to win another Super Bowl, which would be very uncharacteristic and odd of him to actually say that. But needless to say,
think about it.
Well,
think about why he can't say that, because our offensive coordinator is now his new head coach. You can't root against your head coach.
Well, if you're not playing in the game, then you have no vested interest in the game, because that title is no longer not yours. It doesn't belong to you. It belongs to a team you used to play for. It's like you could say the same thing about Tampa Bay, let's just say that they're in the opposite end of the spectrum. They were to win out and play much better and be in Seattle's position, as they obviously will not be this year. But had they been, it still doesn't belong to him because he's been retired from the league for 2 to 3 years. So
no, I just mean that Clint Kubiak is going to be the Raiders head coach, who is Seattle's current offensive coordinator. So,
Right.
you can't be like, hey, I want my upcoming head coach to lose. So besides, he's a media member now. Part of the job is being unbiased, right? So like for me, I will absolutely, talk objectively about Seattle, except for this 3-hour window this Sunday where I'm going to be watching as a fan.
Yeah, well, of course. Why would you not watch as a fan? Like I said, the
Yep.
biggest Seattle Seahawks fan that I know of, who's done everything in an unbiased manner, talking about sports, waiting for his team to finally take turn. And now that they are, I don't blame you one iota for jumping onto the non-objective bandwagon and becoming a fan. I don't blame you at all. I don't blame you whatsoever, because I was the same way at Super Bowl 43, that way in Super Bowl 40, and every Super Bowl before then. So, I could put those and shelve those minutes aside and those hours while I'm watching a game in my Steelers jersey, watching them,
Exactly.
beat up against other teams. So it's a no consequence. But now here we are. Now New England and their path has taken a very different turn this season, with now Mike Vrabel, coach of the year, of getting the Super Bowl. And you can argue that the argument's there. It's a valid one that perhaps New England did not go the same route and direction and had to play the same strengths of schedules. One of the easiest schedules in the National Football League that Seattle had taken to get to this point. Now, the bigger question for me to you, Bo, based on what you know, of course, Bo knows, but with that, has the road for Seattle been that much more tumultuous than any road or any game this season for New England to get them to this point?
I mean, you could easily make the argument that it was harder to get out of our own division than the entirety of New England's schedule. If you look at New England's schedule and you look at the head coaching list, there is only 3 coaches on their entire schedule that weren't fired. And one of them, I'm actually a little surprised. I thought Zach Taylor for sure was getting fired. And so then you had a Saints team that, it was the first year for that. Carolina, that was the, it's their second year, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone else got fired this year, which, I mean, that's wild on its own, right? You had a third of the league fired. So, I mean, that was crazy. It just happened to be that all of them were on their schedule.
Yeah, exactly. And then Minnesota, because Sam Darnold goes over in free agency to Seattle to work under McDonald. Now, Mensah was fired from Minnesota as a general manager. Why? Because he did not do enough. Not only was Sam Darnold the patsy in this situation, it was a draft picks that led up and included Sam Darnold in that, to where ownership says, you let him go. How dare you? How could you? You're fired. It was just kind of that easy. So Mensah's had some questionable draft picks in past NFL drafts, so it doesn't surprise me that Minnesota decided to move away from that.
It's now, with that, even worse than that. It's even worse than that, because they also let Daniel Jones go, who before getting hurt was also tearing it up with the Colts. So they let 2 guys that were really leading their franchises go, and then stuck with J.J. McCarthy, who was unproven. He wasn't asked to do that much from Michigan anyway. That was a, defensive and run first offense. He gets here. He was hurt that rookie year. He comes in. He's hurt again. Stuff like that absolutely gets you fired as a GM.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, I guess what I'm saying is that Sam Darnold, now he's entering the Super Bowl, was the icing on the cake, along with the other draft picks, and included obviously Daniel Jones in that. But both of these guys have proven otherwise outside of the Viking system, which doesn't say a whole lot for Minnesota in regards to what they had to contend with, and or the offensive line and patchwork. And, despite having all the weapons you could possibly have on a Minnesota wide receiving core, did not get enough done and did not get enough throughput. And they're going to have to do some restructuring heading into the offseason. But because it's still the regular season or the postseason for both of these teams, let's talk about the New England Patriots even further. Drake made some noise during the regular season by needing games he needed to win. And when I say that, he made some mistakes along the way. And of course you do. He's a second-year quarterback under a coach of the year, Mike Vrabel, who did absolutely everything possible to not only up his team, but to find a way to get this team to, and forget the fact that these and I'm not going to say these guys are no names, but from the extent of having superstars, there's no Malcolm Butler, right? There's no there's no superstar on either side of this ball that makes you believe that New England, and of course, that's probably one of the reasons why they're underdogs, to make you believe that he's going, that not only he is Drake May is going to move forward in the sense of being able to overcome this very ferocious Seattle Seahawks defense, but we'll be getting some sacks as well along the way. And I'm sure Sam Darnold will get at least one sack to his credit. But when you look at the Pats, who's been doing this, all season long. It didn't start out that way. I mean, they were at home against Pittsburgh. They lost that game against the Steelers. The Steelers it was a whack-a-mole game in New England, and they didn't quite have this all kind of settled into knowing that this team's going to be exactly where they need to be. So, with that being said, we need to take a quick commercial break. Bo Crouch will join me on the other side, so be sure to stay tuned. We shall return. Rudy Reyes, Let's Talk Sports, Diamonds Casino, Reno, and 6 and Sutro. We shall return. We shall be right back. But that's only from that standpoint, not from the stream. So we will definitely be back in that regard.
We'll definitely attack the the kind of what their defense can do, because their defense is absolutely, it's great. The problem is because the schedule is what it is, right? We don't know. They haven't really been that battle tested. So they may be every bit the team that their schedule says they are. Or they could be frauds. We don't really know, because they played a Texans team that CJ Stroud was falling apart, right? He played 2 of his worst games, probably of his career, in the postseason. Then you go to Denver, they lose their quarterback, right? And so when you're looking at all of those things, it's just you don't really know what they are, because they never ended up having to play a complete team. And Seattle is definitely going to be the most complete team they've played.
Yeah, and in all 3 phases. I look for guys like in Jigba. I look for Walker to get his pair, but I'm also looking for special teams to really be a strong contributor in this game. If Seattle gets to and they do exactly what they did against Los Angeles by not only getting those first downs, but by returning for touchdowns and going up 10 points ahead of New England, it's going to be tough sledding. So what that means is that does a few things. First of all, it takes pressure off Sam Darnold to try to over execute his play calling capabilities. What that also does is that it lets the defense know that they can run certain schemes and be patient with those schemes and to maximize the effort on each one of those play calls. What it also does is it sets the tone and pace for the game to be played, meaning that Seattle doesn't have to be in a big time rush in order to, get to Drake May and to execute and, forcing, 3 and outs, and maybe they try to go forward on 4th down and things of that nature. So it really takes the ultimate pressure off of Seattle if they can get that 10-0 edge early in the Super Bowl. Do I expect this to be a high scoring game? Not really. I think at the end of the day, and of course I'll make my ultimate pick, but if I was Seattle, I would get off early and often. Sam Darnold to be patient in the pocket, do exactly what he's done in postseason play, get it to the guys that are reliable, that are going to catch the ball, mix and match your play calls offensively. As long as he executes those, there should be no problem getting down to the field. And if you get 3 out of it, okay, you get 3 out of it. But this Super Bowl is not going to be won on field goals, I guarantee it. And no Super Bowl prior to this one will have won by field goals either.
I mean, if it is won by field goals, Seattle definitely wins, because they already won a game this year with 5 of them. I mean, since you're at the casino, that would be an interesting prop bet.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that would be quite interesting. I'd like to see somebody actually take advantage of that. So we'll see how that works. We got 1 minute till we get back on here.
Yep.
And then we'll get into the New England side of things. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so this is going to be a very good Super Bowl. I'll be at home watching this game as well. I picked Seattle from the beginning of postseason. I really have, because I'm a firm believer in what McDonald's doing with Sam Darnold, how he's able to execute, the pressure that he's faced against teams. And you're right, they have faced a much more arduous road to get to Super Bowl 60 than any team in the NFC in quite some time. And I could probably compare that to the road that the LA Rams went on just a few years ago and how they arrived at where they were at, facing off against the Bengals, who the Bengals were the home team, which is so dumb. Welcome back to Let's Talk Sports. This is Rudy Reyes live from Diamonds Casino on 6th and Sutro. Make sure you check out a lot of the great things we have going on here, including the big game that will happen here tomorrow. Free pizza will be a part of that. So make sure you get yourself a slice. Go to the Roper Bar, grab yourself a drink, and play while you're here, as well as trade ones on the opposite end of the casino. And, of course, if pizza's not your thing, make sure you grab some from the Blue Collar Diner. You'll be glad that you did. Make sure you tip your waiters and waitresses. They work really hard here at the casino with 2,800 square feet ahead of you. Welcome back to Let's Talk Sports. I'm Rudy Reyes, joined by the one and only Bo Crouch, who has been an absolute stud in the things that he has done, not only since I've known him, but even during his arena football life. And of course, that's a separate life other than just playing regular, football and life in general. Let's say, Bo, it's just a little bit different, a little hodgepodge, if you will. And don't forget, we have William Hill here as well with a couple kiosks here at Diamonds Casino. So get your bet on. You can pick some parlays. You can bet your favorite team, whoever that might be. And speaking of favorite team, my team is not in this gig. However, from the regular season, as we wound down towards postseason play, and watching Sam Darnold play for the Seattle Seahawks has been nothing short, outside of the 10 interceptions that he has thrown, has been absolutely masterful in postseason play. And yeah, you can, again, the argument can be had that Drake May has been the guy who's done it for New England, and that's a fair assessment. I would agree with that. But Bo, when I look at New England, and I think to myself, man, are they the legitimate team here? Are they the legitimate contender? And I ask that because when you look at Drake May's numbers and what he has done throughout the regular season, 533 passing yards in the running attack. Ramondre Stevenson, 194 yards, receiving Keyshawn Boot at 147, 20 tackles for Craig Woodson, and then Carlton Davis with 2 interceptions in the quarterback spot for the Patriots defense. But his QBR, again, kind of mild when you think about it by comparison to Sam Darnold, 84.0. Been sacked 15 times, thrown 2 interceptions, 4 touchdowns, and his longest throw was 48 yards. So when you look at New England, when you look at this New England team, what does New England have to do? And of course, take off your Seahawks hat. So we're talking Patriots. I don't know where the Patriots at. But tell me, what does New England have to do to gain the edge early against Seattle?
Yeah, so I mean, there's actually a clear path for them, right? So first, Drake May has to get back to protecting the football, which is something he hasn't done in the postseason so far. But that is a really key element. They need to be able to win the turnover battle. If they want to win this game, they have to win that. There's also some weaknesses in this Seattle defense. And so if he wants to have his, his slot receiver and his tight end get some work, that is going to be one of the easiest places to expose, because the outside linebackers for Seattle are not necessarily great in coverage. So if they can get their really good running game going, then that outside linebacker is going to have to shade off with the tight ends, a leaking out running back, slot receiver. And so that area of the field is very open. The other thing that can really hurt Seattle, especially as aggressive as they are up front, is the RPO. Drake May has legs that he can absolutely extend plays. He can go get first downs, all of that.
Yep.
So using that to their advantage will also slow the pass rush if he can get the RPO game going right away.
Well, let's hope so. Look, there's a lot of issues here. We talk about defense. When you look at the regular season, it's 38.1 versus 37.3 pressure when it meets protection, which means that when Seattle generates pressure on 38% of opponent dropbacks when they're fourth in the NFL on this. New England allows pressures on the opposite side at 37.3. So that means that they're 25th in the National Football League, which definitely bodes well for Seattle's defense. But as you stated, and to your point, Bo, Seattle rushes 4 fewer defenders. The unit ranks 4th in pressure rate. New England faces 4-man rushes. It ranks 29th in pressures allowed. So early and often for Seattle, getting in the backfield, being exotic with your looks, creating looks that may not actually come to fruition, maybe quarterback blitz for Seattle to get in the backfield for New England. Now, on the opposite end of that spectrum, Seattle doesn't rely on individual stars in their game, meaning that when 5 Seahawks defenders have 40-plus pressures, the Patriots only have an 18% ability to generate big plays offensively, which will test the Seahawks secondary. And what that means is that they're going to have to be ball hawks for Seattle secondary. When you look at the secondary for Seattle, are they suspect to what the Patriots do and have done during the regular and postseason?
No, you're looking at one of the best secondaries in the league, right? You got Woolen, Witherspoon, Love, Emenwari is going to be back. You also signed free agent Pro Bowl safety Quandre Diggs, who was in Seattle for a number of years, took a stop in Tennessee and came back, a couple of weeks before the season ended. So, I mean, you could even see some exotic DB packages, say they do like a nickel where they drop Emenwari into that outside linebacker position, right, and have Quandre Diggs fill that in. All of a sudden you have great secondary coverage, and then you still have the enforcer of Emenwari. I would expect to see the secondary do just fine, which is why I say if you can get any of those one-on-one battles with the outside linebackers, that's where you're going to have the best success, is that, 5 to 10 yard depth routes, in cutting and seam routes. Those will be the ones that probably get you the most work against the Seattle defense. Because if you're running into the teeth of it, they stop that pretty well. If you're trying to go over the top, that's going to be really hard.
Yep. Speaking of hard, we have hard habits to break here. We ran over a little bit, but we'll be right back. Join me, Bo Crouch, here talking about Seattle Seahawks and the New England Patriots Super Bowl 60 right here on 6th Street and Sutro at Diamonds Casino. We'll be right back. That was a great stream. That was a good break. I had to segue out of that because they were like, hey, you got to take a break. So, yeah, here we are. But, Seattle's going to have to really not just tighten up, and I don't mean for just a segment within the game. We're talking about the entire game. They can't let up. The minute they do, Drake Bay is just going to pick them apart. But I don't think it's going to be secondary.
That is one thing Seattle's been really good at this year, is when they get on top, they don't take their foot off the gas.
Well, that's only if they can get there. If they can, again, go back to what we were talking about, if they can get 10-0, and that's in the first quarter, then the pressure is going to be on New England to try to play catch up.
Absolutely. And that's where mistakes happen, right? If you're pressing, trying to come from behind, that's where, you're prone to get interceptions. It also allows you to pressure the quarterback more, right? Because you're much more free to give up, a 15 or 20 yarder when you're up by 10 by trying to get after him a lot. So, but I think people discount how good the pass rush is because so many people talk about the secondary for Seattle. The pass rush is a solid front.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. I've seen him get after so many different quarterbacks and bypass. We're talking swim moves, the down to ups, the spins, everything. They just unload the entire arsenal, and you're going to have to against this New England team. I think that from a parity standpoint, I think both of these teams look a lot more even on paper than they do in real-time play, if that makes sense. Because when you look at the numbers with both of these teams, they don't rank high in, a lot of different categories, but yet they rank high in some of the unknown, uncharacteristic categories. Pressures, getting rid of the ball, things you don't see, on actual paper. The nuances of the game, if you will, right? You can look at the NBA and think, the NBA, you can see the things this guy does that only shows up on paper and not on the box score. Well, same with both of these teams. There's a lot of things that they do that don't show up on the box score either, but yet they've been effective all season long doing what they do. I don't know that New England is a team that I don't know. I don't want to say deserves to be here necessarily because they clearly have won the same amount of games that every other team has in the National Football League.
Sure.
But the teams that they have faced certainly begs the question as to whether or not the teams that they faced and have won gives them the automatic right to be in this position and where they're at right now.
So I will save my response for your radio audience because that it's a good point, and really you can look at it from two different ways. And so I don't want to shortchange your radio audience for that one. So
okay, fair enough.
Out, let's table that for just a second because you probably wouldn't expect me to say this because I'm a Seahawk fan, but as an analyst, you got to be a little more objective about it, right?
Yeah, well, of course you do. Of course, why not? Why would it be anything less than that? We got a minute, so you can table that if you want to. So you can basically plug that in whenever you would like. And of course, I'm sitting here playing with the ball because my hands want to be occupied.
We're only 30 seconds out, so
yeah, exactly. 30 seconds out, it's not going to be that bad at all. I guess we're going to find out exactly what that looks like, and we're not too far away from being to the end of the show. So we're certainly gonna unwrap that here. 10 seconds.
Yep. No.
All right, here we go.
Go.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Sports. This is Rudy Reyes here live at Diamonds Casino in Reno, Nevada. The beautiful mountains of Tahoe are not too far away from me. And of course, you can always come down, get your drink on. You can go to the Roper Bar, get your Jack and Coke or whatever your flavor is. You can go to Trade Winds right down the way here in the casino and get a margarita. We got a lot of good things going on. We got a lot of changes here. We have a lot of promotional events. Yesterday was Cash is King, and we give out up to $500 in cold hard cash. So not too bad. This is where you want to be. We're live 6:30 a.m. Fox Sports Radio. Bo. Now, we've talked about this a little bit. We've kind of tippy-toed around it. And, I'm going to ask you to put your fan hat on for a minute. Okay. And I say that because as a football fan myself, and my team's not in it, so I can actually ask this question. When you look at New England, again, my fan hat is on, I don't want them to win their 7th Lombardi. I'm just going to call it like it is. Okay. Now, Seattle, I'm much more interested in because Sam Darnold's my guy, okay? Sure. When I say my guy, it's because I've met Sam on multiple occasions. Great guy, great conversationalist. He's from USC. I have family from USC, graduated from USC. They're alum. Okay, so with that being said, I don't think that both these teams are on the same playing field. Now, opposite of being in Santa Clara tomorrow, I mean in general.
Yeah.
Does New England belong in this game against a team who has been battle-tested, road-tested? They have their own injuries. They've had play-calling debacles here and there sprinkled throughout the regular season. Is Seattle the better team? Remember, fan hat on.
Yeah, so that's actually two different questions, right? So is Seattle the better team? Yes, they do have the better roster. Right. But when you're looking at it from does New England deserve to be there? Did they have a weak schedule? No question. Did they beat their weak schedule? You can only play the teams that are on your schedule, right? Like you can only play the guys that are in front of you. So a win is a win is a win. So you get in, and then you have the teams that you're playing in postseason kind of fall apart or lose a quarterback, whatever. But they still won those games, right? So do they deserve to be here? Sure, they won all those games. But to your point, they may not necessarily be battle tested. Yeah, they played some good defenses, but they weren't complete teams. They were without a quarterback, or it was a CJ Stroud that was throwing the ball to the other team as much as anything else. So are they untested? No question. But at the same time, that also means you don't know if they are every bit the team their schedule or their record says they are, or are they a fraud? And really that question is going to be answered on Sunday, because basically the way it'll get talked about is if New England wins, they're going to be like, look, we beat everyone we were supposed to beat, and then we went and we won a ring. Or the conversation is going to go wildly the other way, where Seattle wins and people are like, oh, they didn't deserve to be there. They had the easiest route and people got hurt. And there's going to be so many excuses if they lose, but if they win, they'll be like, yeah, we beat everyone we were supposed to beat. And so, again, we'll find out. We'll find out tomorrow.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting, Bo. There are so many stories for each individual player. You can't get into all the stories. You can't get into all the minutia of what those stories look like. Even if you compartmentalize them, it doesn't mean you're going to be able to get to them. It doesn't mean you're going to be able to highlight them. But the stories will be told on the field. In the local broadcasts that you're going to see on NBC, you're going to have those heartfelt stories that are going to jerk your tears and everything else under the sun, because it's compelling. It's very compelling. Give me a story that you're aware of for any of these Seattle Seahawks players that you know about that could be talked about on NBC Sports during the Super Bowl.
So one of them that's a storyline that's definitely going to get talked about. There's probably even a prop bet for this, shout out to Diamonds Casino, is whether or not D-Law gets talked about, right? Because we get him from Dallas, and during that, he says, my home's in Dallas, my family's in Dallas, I love Dallas, but I'm not going to win a ring here. And he comes to Seattle. That was this year. They're in the Super Bowl. If he calls his own shot to the point that I can't win one with the Cowboys, comes to Seattle and wins one the same year, that is absolutely going to get some airtime.
It should absolutely get airtime. There's no question about that one. I think that the story, and we touched on it, we talked about it a little bit, is the fact that Sam Darnold.
Uh-oh. Is that on my side or his?
Yeah, we're running short here on time. Can you tell by the video flicker?
Yeah, I was gonna say, is that on my side or yours? That was the best cliffhanger ever. You're just like, yeah, and then Sam Darnold, poof, gone.
Sam Darnold's a guy that I'm going to reach out to if he wins the Super Bowl. Actually, I'll probably reach out to him either way to get him to come on to this show and talk about his experiences throughout his NFL tenure, all the teams, the connections, the nuances, the players, the friends, the coaches, everything that's helped him get to the point where he is right now playing in Super Bowl 60, which is bar none the pinnacle of any player. And most players who've been in this league long enough to know and is aware of that they get their ring and they've played 10, 15 years in the National Football League, guess what they're going to do? Retire. And probably go to Disneyland too while you're at it. But retire would be the first part of that cliffhanger. I think everybody.
With a minute to go, who do you have? Like for me as a Seahawk fan, I got a 27-24 Seattle.
I picked Seattle to win 31-24, but it wasn't even that kind of score in Denver. So I will say this. I would say in a score 24-21 Seattle.
Okay.
24-21 Seattle. It's
right,
a 3-point field goal.
You're hitting the under.
Yeah, I'm hitting the under. Why not? Why wouldn't you? Speaking of the under, we are out of time. But I want to thank Bo Crouch. Bo, where can everybody reach you in a fastidious manner?
Yeah, the easiest way to find me would be on YouTube at Football-Talk, Roku TV, and 97.3 ICU Radio.
There you go. Easy peasy. I'm Rudy Reyes. Don't follow Diamonds Casino. Throw me a follow at Rude Dog Reyes on X. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Have a wonderful day. And make sure you come down to see us here at Diamonds Casino and take advantage of all the wonderful promos where you can get free play and some cold hard cash while you're at it. Thank you very much. Thanks for tuning in. And we'll see you guys next week.
Boom. And there it is.